Hello, it's me again. All right, so my name is Keesha Charles with Charles Community Counseling Center, and I am a licensed clinical social worker, and this is Keesha's Corner. So, as I've shared, I want to start a series just a few days of going over some basic mental health disorders. And the reason it's a disorder because when it impairs your mental functioning, because it impairs your social and occupational functioning, basically, is interrupting your daily life. That's when it becomes a disorder. Many people go through depression. It may be situational, like the recent tragedies that have taken place. It may be situations in your life, from finances to stress to work to children to marriages, whatever the case may be. You know, losing someone, losing a job, the birth of someone. Things have its ups and downs. But when it becomes a disruption in your social and occupational functioning, basically your daily living, then that's when it gets labeled as a disorder. It does not mean you're crazy. Sometimes I look at it as there's a switch. We got all these receptacles going on in our brains, and they're firing off, and keeping us going throughout the day, from healing our bodies, healing our minds, keeping us going, triggering when we're hungry, triggering when we're sad, and also responses to those receptors. I like to look at it as sometimes one receptor might not be firing off the way it should be. There may be a slight glitch, so things are firing off in a different direction, or if not firing off at all. So I look at it as that. And so sometimes our role as the therapist is to come in and kind of help spark it up a bit. Sometimes it's like that car that's been sitting down for so long in the winter, and you got to let it warm up and rev up a bit to get going again. That's our role. Sometimes it may be a chemical imbalance, okay, that needs that help with that extra spark to get it going again. So that individual may need medication in addition to therapy. There's so many reasons that people could be going through what they're going through, from past events never resolved to current events. Okay, so the first one I wanted to go over is bipolar disorder. I really wanted to start with this one because I hear it so much. Oh, she's bipolar. Oh, he's bipolar. And ain't nowhere near true. Okay, just because somebody seems to always have an attitude or firing off or whatever doesn't mean they have bipolar disorder. Okay, so I want to give you the textbook definition of what bipolar disorder is. So that way, if you do know someone that's experiencing these symptoms, or you yourself are experiencing these symptoms, then you might have a level of bipolar disorder. There's a bipolar 1 and a bipolar 2 disorder. And then there's one that's cyclothymic disorder. It's a smaller scale, don't quite meet criteria for bipolar, but they have the ups and downs. So textbook, you have depression, major depressive disorder. And I will share with you textbook definition. Remember that big book I showed you a few videos ago? Diagnostic Statistical Manual. Okay, so major depression. 5 or more of the following symptoms have been present for the same 2-week period and represent a change from previous functioning, okay? Depressed mood most of the day, nearly every day. Marked diminished interest or pleasure in all or almost all activities daily, nearly every day. Significant weight loss when not eating or dieting to gain weight or lose weight. Insomnia, sleeping too much. Hypersomnia, not sleeping enough, nearly every day. Psychomotor agitation or retardation every day, observable by others, kind of like that nervousness, restlessness, can't sit down. Fatigue or loss of energy, nearly every day. Feeling of worthlessness or excessive or inappropriate guilt, which may be delusional, nearly every day. Not merely just self-reproach or guilt about being sick, okay? Diminished ability to think or concentrate or indecisiveness, nearly every day. Recurrent thoughts of death. Not just fear of dying, but recurrent suicidal ideations without a specific plan, or with a suicide attempt or a specific plan for committing suicide. 5 or more of those symptoms give somebody a major depressive episode, which is that extreme low in bipolar disorder. Now, on the other end of the spectrum is the extreme high, okay? Bipolar 2, extreme high, extreme low. Let me explain the extreme high, which actually some individuals that have bipolar disorder kind of like that part because it has so much energy. So, a manic episode, there are two types of episodes that are the highs: manic, which is the highest, hypomanic, which is kind of high but not as high, you're still functioning. Both of these have the same symptoms except for one distinct criteria. So, both a distinct period of abnormality, persistently elevated, expansive, or irritable mood. Okay? During most of this period of disturbance, they have an increased energy or activity. Three or more of the following symptoms have to be present for manic or hypomanic: inflated self esteem or grandiosity, okay? Decreased need for sleep. This person may function on 3 hours of sleep or less. I've met some individuals who go days without sleeping during this period. More talkative than usual or the pressure to keep talking. Flight of ideas or subjective experience that thoughts are racing, okay? Distractibility. Their attention is too easily drawn to unimportant or irrelevant extreme stimuli. Increase in goal activities, okay? Socially, at work, at school, or even sexually. Excessive involvement in activities that have a high potential for painful consequences. For example, engaging in unrestrained shopping sprees, sexual indiscretions, foolish business investments. So the mood disturbance is sufficiently severe to cause marked impairment in social or occupational functioning. The difference between the manic episode and the hypomanic episode, the manic episode, that person may end up requiring a hospitalization because it's gotten that out of control. Okay? It's causing a severe impact in their social and occupational functioning. The hypomanic may not require hospitalization. That might be the person that's like so got multiple projects going on, overly goal directed and different things, might not be finishing any of these projects now. Okay. Little need for sleep. That might be the person that's overly engaged at work, working long hours, days at a time, not sleeping. So the hypomanic. Now it switches to manic if that person gets to the point where it's impacting their social and occupational functioning, if they require hospitalization. But that's bipolar disorder. You have the extreme high and extreme low. If you've ever had an extreme high, even if it's just one time in your life, and then most of the time it's back to the depressive state, to your baseline, that is bipolar disorder. Okay. Some individuals rapidly cycle between the two. Okay. Some individuals may stay predominantly in one area, never experience or little experience with the other area. Okay, so bipolar disorder, there's a bipolar 1 and a bipolar 2. I mentioned earlier cyclothymic disorder. Cyclothymic disorder, cycling. You're cycling back and forth above and below your baseline, but not quite meeting the criteria for manic or hypomanic disorder or even major depressive disorder. But you're having these ups and downs over a period of 2 years, okay? And so when you tell someone, oh, you bipolar, now you know the definition and you can accurately say if they truly bipolar or if they got something else going on that I'll address in a future video, okay? So I look at it like this: a person that it may be manic or hypomanic, constantly going, and they struggle to stop. My son ran track. So this is how I was able to compare it and really get a good understanding for it. So he ran track, they're running their laps around, and he was a distance runner. So wasn't just sprinting from one end to the other in a 100-meter race or whatever. He was a distance runner, so miles involved, okay? So they start out at a slow pace, pacing themselves, trying to stay ahead, but not so much focus on trying to stay ahead, but getting a good distance. It was that last lap, a second wind kicks in, okay? You hear people say that second wind kick in, I had more energy at the end of the day. Don't know what a second wind kicked in to get some things done. That second wind kicks in as that person is running track on that last lap to pick up the speed, pass their opponents to win the race. But at the end of the race, they stop, they rest, they gather themselves together. A person that's in a manic state or hypomanic state, it's like that second wind has kicked in, but it never shuts off. And the family members are like, slow down, why don't you just stop, this and the other. They are struggling with shutting it off, okay? Until at some moment they may crash. I've heard of individuals or worked with individuals that found themselves driving and didn't know where they were going and found themselves in another state. Gambling excessively, investments, sexual indiscretions, sometimes even the drug abuse, I've talked to individuals that like the hypomanic state, those that were still able to function to a certain degree, but they never finished anything, and it's like that revved up energy, but eventually they crash. So it's like that person running track, that distance runner, in that last lap coming around, they pick up the speed, but the person dealing with manic or hypomania never shuts off. Those individuals sometimes can be hard to keep up with, hard to kind of settle down a bit. Then you may have the person that's dealing with a depression, back and forth from their baseline to major depressive. Can't get out the bed. Just to get out of the bed to do basic hygiene, brush your teeth, leave the bed to go to the living room, whatever the case may be. It is a chore. It is a struggle. They want to, but they just can't move. So we work on just doing the opposite of what you want to do or thinking and stuff, so eventually trying to reprogram their mind, reprogram their body, okay, to get to that moment where they can get up and do the basic things. So these are extreme highs and extreme lows makes up bipolar disorder. Not quite meeting the criteria, but still having the ups and downs is cyclothymic disorder. All right, so I hope you learned something today. And if you decide to call somebody bipolar disorder, or somebody that called you bipolar disorder, you can resort back to this video to verify if they truly have it. Okay? If not, then we need to be looking at something else. All right? But if you do have this, or you know someone that's experiencing this, by all means, seek the help. Talk to someone. They can teach you how to identify the triggers before an episode is fully occurring. They can determine if a medication is needed for you, like a mood stabilizer, like lithium, for example, is a mood stabilizer that a lot of individuals that have bipolar disorder is on. So this was some brief education for you. This was a quick rundown in a nutshell what bipolar 1-2 disorder is and cyclothymic disorder. Be blessed, get help. Stay tuned for the very end because I do have some information of where you can seek help at. Or call your insurance company to see who's in network with your insurance if you have coverage for that. There's also resources for individuals who do not have insurance where you can also seek help. I'll have that information listed right after this. All right. See you for the next video, for the next education. Talk to you later. Bye.